Choose your comic.
Hey everybody, and welcome to our free comic book day 2024 early comic review special
extravaganza.
Don't forget it. So we've been teasing this for a while. We've got a big show for you going over pretty much all the free comic book day books coming out this year. I think we've got 40 something?
I want to say there's 48.
48,
maybe?
something like that, which is the majority. I think maybe there's one book that hasn't arrived yet.
Right.
But all the big ones are here, and we're going to be going over all of them. Some more than others, of course, because there's a lot, and we don't want to be here all day. But we want to tell you kind of a little bit about them, so when you go into your store on May 4th, going into your local comic book store, support them. You have a better idea of if they only allow a certain number, or you want to check and make sure you don't miss out on any. We'll tell you about all the big ones right here, so you're better prepared.
Yeah.
On May 4th, just keep reminding you, May 4th, not local free comic book
day.
That's
free,
just here.
Yeah, right.
No, it's free comic book day nationwide. So great stuff. And I'm actually going to kick it off this with a little biased opinion. We have Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures.
Who was the artist on that one?
I don't know.
Does it say on the cover?
Hey, that's my name.
Is that your name on the cover? Holy cow.
That's my name
wow.
up here. So I did this one. I was the interior artist. I did the pencils and inks on the interior, and I did on the cover. I did the pencils, inks, and colors. So this is all me right here. And this one's awesome. So one, I'm a big Star Wars fan. It was awesome to be able to work on this, which is one of the most distributed comics. All the free comic book day books go everywhere. Yeah. So that was awesome. But also, this is your first comic appearance of the Young Jedi Adventures characters. Like you see on the cover, there's Nubs from the Disney Plus show. So this is the first time they're appearing in a traditional comic book. And it's a team up between those characters and the characters from High Republic Adventures, also being published at Dark Horse. So this is overall just an awesome book. It's mostly between the two characters here. We've got Quart and we've got Nubs, as they kind of learn how to communicate when they, Nubs doesn't speak Galactic Basic, Quart doesn't speak Galactic Basic, but they learn that they can still communicate to solve a big problem. So don't miss out on this one. Support it. Support me. Really cool. There's also a backup story of Plants vs. Zombies that I did not do, but is also included. And wanted to remind you, if you head over to infinityflux.net right now, you can actually order this book from us and get it signed or remarked. I'm doing little sketches of Nubs right there in the white box on the bottom. So head over there right now and order you a copy with my own little sketch or signature added to it.
And it's cool that this is coming out on Free Comic Book Day, because Free Comic Book Day this year is also Star Wars Day. So the planets align, everything in the galaxy aligned, you being a big Star Wars fan, everything aligned to make this happen. This is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, so check it out. I, as always, kind of put some little Easter eggs in there, a bunch of really cool stuff. So definitely my choice, my number one choice this year. For Free Comic Book Day.
Well, I'm going to start with the Spider-Man / Ultimate Universe book from Marvel. This is all original material, no reprints or anything. There are two stories in here. The first one is a Spider-Man story written by, the art is by Ryan Stegman.
Yep.
So it looks really good. It's kind of funny because in this story, Spider-Man gets attacked by these Chuck E. Cheese looking animatronic characters.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Okay, yeah, probably closer to that, I think, which is pretty funny. Who's controlling them? Why are they doing that? It seems like maybe they're not attacking him, but actually trying to warn him about something, which is interesting.
Very poor way of warning him.
Right, and what does Norman Osborn have to do with it all? We don't really know, but we do know that it's going to lead into the upcoming Amazing Spider-Man number 50 and on, the story they're going to tell there. So that's really cool. There's also something that I was really excited for, our first look at the new Ultimates book that's going to be coming out. I want to say it was June, I think, which is our next book in the new Ultimate Universe. In this one, you've got Captain America and Iron Lad and Doom. They enter a storage facility known as Damage Control that is essentially a big superhero mass grave because we see all kinds of relics from other heroes in there. There's lots of Easter eggs kind of alluding what happened to those heroes in the new 6160 universe. They face off against the Maker's Police, known as the Hand, which is really cool, but they're not the red-clad ninjas that you are familiar with. They're something else. But Captain America is able to revive one other hero who we haven't seen in a really, really long time. So that was really cool too. Oh, and there is a small preview of the upcoming Venom War story where Dylan Brock kind of gets a glimpse at the future of what will happen if his dad, Eddie Brock, is reconnected with the Venom symbiote. And so that's going to lead into the upcoming Venom War storyline. So this is chock full of stuff, coming up for Marvel in the near future. So if you're excited for all that, definitely check this one out.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the big ones this year, especially with that Ultimate story.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's Easter eggs. We knew that the makers stopped a lot of heroes from manifesting, like taking the spider away from Spider-Man or changing the date of the Fantastic Four launching so they don't get hit by cosmic rays. But if you think of all the characters in the Marvel Universe, he had to do way more than those.
Sure.
So you start getting ideas of what extent he had to go to stop all the heroes from being created. Well, next up for me is, other than my book, this is probably my pick this year for biggest and best.
Yeah.
This is Image Comics Skybound's Energon Universe. I guess it's Energon Universe #1, but this is a big one. One beautiful Ryan Ottley cover with Megatron on here. This contains 3 stories, each kind of representing a aspect of the Energon Universe. So we have, to begin with, a Transformer story, then we have a Void Rival story, then we have a G.I. Joe story. I don't want to give away too much about these, but I will say we've got our first story by Daniel Warren Johnson and Ryan Ottley, which is the Transformer story that actually takes place before the events of Transformers #1.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're on a ship that's
Oh,
crashing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I forgot.
Yeah. So this is kind of explains a lot of how Megatron got to where he is, how Optimus got to where he is. Really awesome over-the-top action with that one, but some hints at future upcoming stories, especially with Megatron.
Yep.
This is a big one for him. Our second story is a Void Rival story by Robert Kirkman and Dave Felici. And this one, probably the most surprising.
There was one page turn where I audibly went, "What?" Because I didn't know to expect it.
This is the kind of thing I always want from Free Comic Book Day. I know it's like get you caught up on stories or get you interested, but I'm always looking for those like surprise moments. And the Void Rivals one had it, which is going to have a lot of people talking, a lot of people very excited. So don't miss that one. And then there's a G.I. Joe story by Joshua Williamson, and the art is by Jason Howard. And this takes place post the final issue of Duke.
Right.
So Duke is still on the verge of building what I think is eventually going to be G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
But Hawk basically tells him you need to put together a team. And Duke has a first choice that Hawk is not too happy with. That's where it starts, but where it ends is going to be some first appearances of characters in this new G.I. Joe universe that I was very excited. One of them is one of my favorite characters.
And with the way it ended, I literally, like, alone, out loud said, "What does that mean?
Yeah.
Where is this going?"
Yeah, there's a little X factor to the end that teases something, maybe something else. We don't know. But we're going to have to read further in all of the G.I. Joe Center books to find out.
It gives me the idea that even though the Energon Universe has been around for a good year now, we are only just barely getting into it.
Yeah, we're just past the opening setup.
Yeah.
So don't miss out on Energon Universe. They are actually printing this again like 2 weeks later, a week later.
Yeah, so on one of our episodes of Comics from the Future, we talked about how you can pre-order this book but with a different cover. And in that video, we said, I don't really know why they're doing this. Now I get it. Because if you can't make it to a comic book store on Free Comic Book Day, you definitely, but you're a fan of the Energon Universe, you probably definitely still want to pick this up. So if you can't get the free version, you're definitely going to want to get the version that you can buy for like $4.
Yeah.
It's all the same inside, just a different cover, but I get it now.
I feel like this, out of all of them, is the most, like, if you're rating these books, the most essential rating for those stories, because it's going to be a lot of these elements are going to be brought up probably pretty soon
Yeah.
in those
Yeah.
stories.
This issue was probably my favorite of all of
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Well, next is the Absolute Power Free Comic Book Day book. Most of this is original material, acting as a prelude to the upcoming Absolute Power event over at DC. We've got Amanda Waller and Failsafe and the Clock King. They're all in the Hall of Order, formerly the Hall of Justice, and they're conducting experiments on superpowered criminals. Presumably, I think, to try to figure out how to siphon their powers. We had a discussion about this. We're not quite sure yet, but we'll learn more as time goes on. But it's just not quite working. There's a piece missing that Amanda Waller just cannot seem to figure out why this thing isn't working. But then maybe she gets a message at the end that just might be that missing piece that she's looking for. There's also a 3-page preview in this of the upcoming Absolute Power #1, 3 pages from that actual book, featuring Superman maybe not having such a good day. We'll say that. But if you're really excited about the upcoming Absolute Power event, this is a really nice, kind of more subtle though, but a good lead into it.
Yeah, and it gives you, if you haven't been reading it, there's a lot of pages about here's the characters involved, here's the stories that each of these things have been leading up to. Kind of some bonus stuff, just telling you about stuff maybe you can go out and buy the collected editions of or whatever, but catches you up to this story, which I think is a really nice touch for those who maybe haven't been reading, Titans and everything that's contained there. Next up for me, another big one this time. This is Marvel's Blood Hunt Free Comic Book Day featuring Uncanny X-Men. So the first story in here is by Jed MacKay and Sarah Pichelli. I love Sarah Pichelli's art. That's your OG Miles Morales artist. But in this, we see Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and Daredevil where they are when, I don't want to say the skies go dark, because I'm not quite sure what is happening in the skies. Like portals open.
Well, the Dark Force dimension is opening.
Yes.
It's like the rift between the real world and the Dark Force dimension is tearing down or breaking. And the skies do kind of go dark because of that.
Yeah, and so you see how each of them are kind of reacting to this, where they are when this happens. The particular one I liked was Daredevil's.
Yeah.
Because always with Daredevil, he doesn't see it, but he can feel the shift. He can feel the change in the weather and all that.
He can sense the fear of everybody on the street, that kind of thing.
That one I really liked his part of that. Also, we see what is Brielle Brooks, the daughter of Blade, is up to, where she is when she gets confronted by someone that maybe is one of her father's greatest enemies, but why are they there? You'll have to read to find out. But a nice setup for Blood Hunt. It's not like essential reading, but it's a nice, preface, lead in, kind of a feel of the tone that it's going to be.
Yeah. Now, Blood Hunt #1 proper comes out on Wednesday the 1st, so that'll actually be out before this. So a little bit out of order there, but not too much.
But the I want to say the big one for me in this was the Uncanny X-Men story, because this is the first post-Krakoan era X-Men story we're getting. And that is a story we don't quite know how it wraps up yet. But this will give you a taste of what the mutant community in the Marvel Universe, what their status is, how does the Krakoan era kind of send them out into the world.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. This focuses on Jubilee. It's written by Gail Simone and David Marquez does the art. And Jubilee is... it begins with her looking at the old X Mansion. And I don't want to give too much away, but it looks like somebody new is moving in and doing some redecorating.
They are not going to be using it as a school.
No.
Going forward.
And it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to give away too much, but it does kind of give you an idea of what the Krakoan era of X-Men did to the mutants and kind of really set them back a bit. But it's got some really good moments with Jubilee helping fellow mutants out. So that, I think, is a big one, just to kind of get an idea of what the upcoming X-Men books are going to be like.
Yeah, for sure.
For that one. So pretty fun one there for Marvel. So we've got 2 big Marvel ones this year.
Yep. Well, I'm going to talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book. This one has 2 different stories in it, 2 original stories. The first one is a prelude to the upcoming Ninja Turtles Night Watcher book. Jason Aaron is sort of, there's a whole new era of Ninja Turtles coming, written by Jason Aaron. The current run just finished at issue number 150, and now they're entering this whole new era with a few new books, and one of those is Night Watcher. In this book, there is someone who looks like a turtle. I mean,
He definitely has the turtle build
Yeah.
and the turtle number of fingers.
and right, yeah. So I don't really know who else that could be, but this character is kind of patrolling the streets because we know that the turtles have actually sort of gone their separate ways, gone off into the world to do other things. But somebody still has to fill the void while they're gone from New York. So this character, whoever it may be, they're gonna, in this book, they actually stop some thieves who are trying to break into a bank vault. So they're kind of sort of going to be New York's protector for the foreseeable future. There's also a fun story in this book of Splinter relaxing one night when the four turtles go out on patrol. What does Splinter do when they're all gone? And it was actually really fun and really funny.
I'm glad they included that because the first story doesn't include any of the 4 original turtles.
Unless this is one of them.
Yeah, unless that's one of them.
We
But it's
don't know.
definitely not like the traditional turtles. So
Yeah.
they do include a story that is very traditional
Yeah,
turtle
for
story.
sure. Almost feels like it could fit in anywhere, not really set in any certain
Yeah.
time. But yeah, so if you're a Ninja Turtles fan, if you're excited about what is coming soon, then definitely check
Yeah,
this
that's
one
our
out.
first appearance of Night Watcher in
Right.
comics,
Yeah.
which is a big deal. And, you know, he's definitely going about things, he or she is going about things in a much more brutal way.
Sure, yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
very cool in there. Next up, I've got Doctor Who's 2024 free comic book day special. Now, this is really cool. This is your first comic appearance of Ncuti Gatwa, who is the new Doctor, coming up in a couple of weeks. His main series starts. We have the couple of specials with him. But this is cool. This is by Dan Waters, and the art is by Kelsey Ramsey, and lettered by our own Richard Starkings, a good friend of ours. So in this, you've got the Doctor who and his companion Ruby Sunday, who we've seen from those specials, are going out. They're in the TARDIS, just flying between time, when the Doctor hears something outside of the walls of the TARDIS, which is very weird because there's nothing out there while you're going through space and time and everything. But this kind of pulls the TARDIS into 1739 in York Castle, where the infamous Dick Turpin, who is a highwayman, seems to, his history's changed a little bit, and now he has a big power gauntlet.
Oh, nice.
So what's all this
And it's
have
got
to
6
do?
gems on it, and he snaps, right?
Basically, no, he can just shoot blasts out of it.
Okay.
But how is all this connected? And there is a reveal of a new villain that's very, very cool. So if you're excited about the new Doctor Who, you're a big Doctor Who fan, check this one out, because there is a new Doctor Who ongoing series starting very, very soon that this will follow up.
Nice. Well, next is Flash Gordon, number 0. There actually is a number 0 on there. This is written by Jeremy Adams. He had a great run on Flash. He is having an amazing run on Green Lantern right now, and now he is jumping over to do Flash Gordon. This is a prelude to the upcoming Flash Gordon number 1 that comes out in July. In this one, Ming the Merciless, he has developed this weapon that can destroy entire planets, and he intends to use it on Earth. And Flash and his crew, they come up with a really clever way to sneak into Ming's palace so that Flash can get in there and stop it. And it leads to a big clash between Flash and Ming, classic Flash Gordon. But the ending is really surprising.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me wonder if they're really doing the thing that it looks like they're doing. And if so, what is that going to mean for this series going forward? But just really cool. Like, we haven't seen Flash Gordon in a while.
Highly recommend this. The art is great.
Yep.
The writing is great. This feels like, top quality comics storytelling.
And they plan on doing some big stuff with this, because in the back there's almost like a calendar, and they're talking about a Defenders of the Earth series coming in August.
There's they're doing some collections of classic Flash Gordon stuff coming up. So this is great. They're going all in.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is really fun. Like I said, we haven't seen Flash Gordon in a while, and it looks like they're revitalizing it. And it all starts right here.
Yeah, that's one of my picks of like, hey, you've got the big 2, you've got some of the big Star Wars books, everything.
Yeah.
But don't sleep on this one and another one coming up that I think are like standout surprises that are really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next up for me, I've got Conan, Battle of the Black Stone. This is, as you can see, we didn't mention it before, color-coded at the top. This one is red. That means it's a mature title. Green is all ages.
Yeah,
and blue is kind of your
teen, like 13 and up. Yeah.
Kind of what your basic comic is. But, of course, it's Conan, so it's got a little bit of extra choppy going on with Conan.
There's some sword play.
Yes,
You know?
this is some finessed swordplay. But this is by Jim Zub and the artist by Jonas Scharf. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I said that.
Sure.
And this one's really cool. So it sets up very classic Conan. He's in a battle, kind of on the countryside with some of his soldiers and some brutes. I guess there might be some Picts or something. But when he takes on a particular kind of one of your brute foes, that you can't use your normal block attacks against them or whatever. They're extra strong.
You have to use hit the Y button for the heavy.
You got to do the heavy attack, which is slower but more effective.
Yeah, sure.
So when he takes him down, he notices a medallion that he's wearing, and this kind of flicks something in Conan's mind where he gets some flashes of events that happened through the first 8 issues of Conan. But at the same time, or I guess the same time, when you turn the page, there are other characters that are witnessing this sigil as well, and they are across what Robert E. Howard called the Howardverse. So you've got Conan, and you know about characters like Cull and some of those, but he created a lot of other characters that aren't all like barbarians and stuff. This goes all the way up to classic detective stories and all of that, and a lot of those characters make an appearance, and it looks like they're setting up a big event coming up that is like Blackstone event,
Right.
That's going to be coming later this year. So this is kind of a lead into a big event that seems maybe it's even doing a lot of the Howardverse characters are going to be involved. So very interesting one here if you are a Conan fan. I know last year we sold out of Conan really fast. So definitely grab this one if you're interested.
Yeah, I'll say about that one. I didn't read that one, and I didn't know what it was. I thought it was another Conan story, but when we looked at it right before, I was like, "Wait, this is much bigger than I thought," and it's leading into what I think is going to be a really cool story. So if you're a Conan fan, don't sleep on that one because there's some really cool stuff in there. Plus, the physical quality of the book is good too. The pages are really nice. It's got a really nice
glossy stock on it. Like this is a very high quality book.
Yeah, that's a cool one for sure. So this one is I Lie Popeye. So this one is very surprising as well. I was blown away by this. You read it first and then told me about it.
It wasn't in your stack of books to read. Some of them we shared and we both read, but a lot of them we kind of divvied up. After I read this one, it's like, you have to read this one.
Yeah, for sure.
This is crazy.
So this is a 24-page preview of I don't know why it's called I Lie Popeye. I'm
not sure either.
But it's called I Lie Popeye, #1. It's coming out in July. This issue kind of starts with this reporter wanting to interview Popeye about how he lost his eye, and all the characters around him, like Olive Oil and Bluto and Wimpy, Popeye tries to tell a story, but they all interrupt and tell their version
of the story.
But the reporter, she kind of gets fed up listening to all of these stories, and she's not exactly what she seems. We'll say that. However, that's just part of the story. What this is actually is this is Popeye by way of Dragon Ball Z or maybe One Piece or some big shonen anime or manga or something like that, because this looks like this could be a big. This looks like you took Dragon Ball Z and took out Goku and put Popeye in instead, and he's just as strong and powerful at fighting these villains.
When he eats the spinach, like he does like a power up and like his muscles go big and like I don't know, it uses all those like manga tropes of like your shonen anime, but through the very funny lens of Popeye. But like the battles, like I read this as like, okay, Popeye is Goku, Bluto is Vegeta. They're kind of rivals, but they have to work together. They fight, like the villains in this are very kind of like, you could see them in a kind of a One Piece villain type thing, but they're throwing trucks. They're like, slamming on the ground in big like rings of dirt. They're like crumbling underneath them. It is awesome.
It reminds that when Popeye fought this villain, it reminded me of when Goku fought Cell in Dragon Ball Z. If you're familiar with that, it looks like that. It feels like that, and the way it ended. I was just like,
big 2-page spread.
Where's
where's
the next issue? I gotta have it right now. So, if you're a fan of any of that type of storytelling or Popeye, check this one out. This was a huge surprise for both of us with how good and entertaining it was. That's it. I mean, that's it. Really cool. Check out Popeye if you like.
It's written, drawn, color, everything by Marcus Williams, who I've known because we both worked on a book together back in the day. And he's such a big fan of manga, and his style is so perfect for this. When I heard he was doing Popeye, I was like, that's so weird. And I read it, I was like, I know exactly why he's doing this. So that is one, like, if you only have a couple you can get, still get that one, because you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I have to read this new Popeye series.
Right.
Which, what year is it that we're talking about Popeye, and soon we're going to be talking about some other classics?
Yeah, Flash Gordon and Popeye, and there's another one coming up. Like,
Yeah.
what? Are we
Yeah.
in the 70s again?
I have to say, it's very cool, though. So, my next one, of course, is Star Wars. This is the main Marvel Star Wars book for 2024 Free Comic Book Day. This is broken up into two stories that kind of go along with the two main Star Wars books at Marvel. So we've got a Star Wars and a Darth Vader book. Our first story is called Return to Echo Base by Charles Soule. And this one's really cool. I really like this story. Sometimes I'm a little like iffy when, it's like, we got to go back to that same place and do kind of the same thing we did before. I know there's like an old Indiana Jones game where there was a second idol in the cave with the boulder and they had to do it again. But this one, they have to return to Echo Base on Hoth because there is, they got a rogue signal that might sound like there is some people that got left behind when they evacuated when the Empire attacked in Empire Strikes Back. And upon going there, it's kind of a revisiting of Hoth and some key locations. But now what is it that there's been kind of this this remnant of the Empire, kind of this side part of the Empire they've put there that, all the snow troopers are just like playing cards because like the rebels are never going to return here. Mm-hmm. And of course the rebels return here. So really fun first story, great art in that. That one didn't, if you're reading the main Star Wars book, didn't like propel the story forward. It's kind of just a fun, it can fit in anywhere in that. The second story by Greg Pak called The Curse is kind of part more of the like ongoing story of Darth Vader because Vader knows he must find a way to stop Luke or turn Luke to the dark side, and he has a plan for this, but he has to do it at the right moment because some stuff has happened where Luke's right on the edge and he doesn't want to tip him the wrong way. So that's a really cool part, but also we get Sabe, who is the handmaiden of Padme, who's appeared in this, and she's made a return in this story, and she is also seeking Luke, which is really, really cool. So if you're reading that, I know a lot of people are really excited to see the return of Sabe. She's kind of a breakout character in this series. So don't miss this, especially if you're reading the ongoing Star Wars titles and Darth Vader titles, because, it's more of that by the same writers. Really good. Just inclusion into the ongoing series.
Yes. Well, next is, again, what year are we in? Because we're going to talk about Jonny Quest, and this was another surprising how just awesome it was and how it made me want to read the new book coming soon. So the Jonny Quest story in this it's all original material. It's a prelude to Jonny Quest #1 coming out in June from Dynamite.
Dynamite, yeah.
Yep. So this is set in 1964, where Jonny Quest and his team. I even spelled it wrong. Johnny. Jonny Quest and his team are on their boat in the middle of the ocean when a storm comes and the lightning zaps the boat and feeds down into this machine that Dr. Quest is working on. And it's high seas and everything. Well, it all subsides. They finally get back to their home, but it doesn't look like they remember it. And they pretty quickly find out that this isn't quite their home, but where or when are they? And that's kind of the big question. But a really fun new Jonny Quest story to go along with your Popeye and your Flash Gordon. So that's really cool. There's also a reprint of the first few pages of Thundercats #1 in here. If you missed that, you can see that. And then there's also, and I'm going to call this a reprint of the first few pages of Space Ghost #1, which actually comes out on Wednesday the 1st. So it's not out yet, but by the time you'll be able to get this, it will be out. So I guess those are technically considered a reprint. Yeah. But those pages look great too, and it made me want to read the new Space Ghost book. So we're looking forward to talking about that on Monday. But yeah, just more cool kind of retro stories, but for the new age.
Yeah, by Joe Casey, which I'm big name on there. Man, when I was younger, there's no cooler character than Race Bannon.
Yeah.
He was just the toughest.
Yeah,
coolest.
And he's just like being awesome right there. He's all through this and being cool.
Yeah, and the way this ends is like, okay, now what's the story gonna be? It's very, very cool. So next up for me, I've got Hellboy / Stranger Things for 2024. And I'm a huge Hellboy fan, so I was very excited about this. It's really cool. This is Hellboy. He's on a case. There is a girl who was found dead, and she was only 22, but the pictures of her, like when they found her body, she looks like an old woman.
Yeah.
And she's known to frequent this this fortune teller, lady with her crystal ball and everything. So Hellboy goes there to kind of figure out what was she doing here? Does it have anything to do with that? And it ends up taking Hellboy on kind of a vision quest of his entire life. Really cool. It's a great one and done little Hellboy story.
And is it leading into anything, or just it's just a
so.
Hellboy story?
It's just kind of every Hellboy story. It just kind of exists and it's fun, and then you're done.
Yep.
So highly recommend this one. I always love the Hellboy stuff. And then there's also a Stranger Things story in the back that focuses on Argyle, the pizza boy, who is kind of a big character in season 3.
It kind of shows how he may have had some strange encounters of his own throughout his life.
Yeah. So if you're a fan of Stranger Things or Hellboy, definitely pick this one up.
Yep. Well, the next one is the Marvel Voices Free Comic Book Day book. Now, this one, some of it's original material. There's some of it's a reprint. The first and the main story is a new Spider-Man India story, which is really fun. Spider-Man is filming a cameo in a Bollywood movie, but the director is a little bit shady. She can kind of hypnotize people to make them do what she says, which maybe every director wishes they could do. But she gets a little bit out of control, and Spider-Man has to stop her. There's also a 3-page Spider-Gwen story with her trying to find the right rhythm for the Mary Jane's new song and how she comes about doing that. And then there's a reprint of a story from the 2023 Pride book featuring a gang of thieves known as the Commune, and that story features Spider-Man when he was wearing like the goblin suit with the glowing or yellow balls and the yellow eyes. And then there's also a reprint of the Marvel Voices X-Men 2023 book featuring Gambit as well. So if you want to read those stories or read this fun new Spider-Man India story right there, then grab that one.
Very cool. Next up, I've got Gatchaman number 0. So we are from Mad Cave going to be getting a new Gatchaman series.
More adding to the 60s and 70s nostalgia, So
I was never super familiar with this. I knew it more as Battle of the Planets, which is a complete, we just use the footage and put our own story with it and everything. But this is more to the original intent of the series. So this is actually written by Cullen Bunn, the first story in this. Then we got a Tommy Lee Edwards story and a Steve Orlando story. So some big names on this. As we see a lot of action. We see all of our members of the team kind of play a role in this. Plenty of action. You get their ships. You get all that cool stuff. But also, the Flash Gordon one has a backup page where it kind of shows you their release schedule. And they're going to be doing a new series, some one-shots, all of that. And I believe that's by some of your different creative teams that are in this, the one-shots, everything. So you get a good taste of the whole Gatchaman kind of series they're going to be setting up. So if you're a fan, pick this one up because it is number 0. So I think it's kicking it all off.
Mm-hmm. Well, next is Stories from the Atlas Library. And I wanted to show this one because I love stuff like this. So this is a preview of the pre-Marvel Atlas Comics stories from the 50s. So Atlas Comics that eventually became Marvel in 1961 with the emergence of the Fantastic Four. This is before all that from Atlas Comics. But this is some of their pre-Comics Code horror books from the horror stories from the 1950s. There's 6 stories in this total. Just each one's just a few pages. The first one's cool though because it's actually written by Stan Lee. And it's about this raving lunatic who barges into the office of this comic book editor who works for this publisher, ranting about how he doesn't like any of the stories that they're printing. And it actually still holds up pretty well today. Maybe swap out one thing for another, but it actually still mirrors a lot of the discourse today. But written by Stan Lee back in the 50s, really cool. There's another story that I really liked about a guy who thinks he has a fatal heart condition. His doctor tells him that. So he says, I don't want to wait to die. And he goes and finds this guy. He pays to kill him. But sometime in the next 24 hours, he's like, don't tell me when. I want to be surprised so I don't see it coming. Well, then he gets word that maybe he doesn't have that heart condition after all. And what happens to him after that. And there's just 4 other stories in here. I just love the horror stories from the 1950s because they are still, even today, really creepy and they hold up really well. So if you like that kind of stuff, definitely check this one. 6 stories total, and they're great.
Next up for me is one that you need to add to your stack for a little levity. This is great. This is the Mad Free Comic Book Day special. And this is so much fun.
It's really funny,
It's really funny, legitimately funny. A lot of the funnies are either kind of groan,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, good joke, and some are like laugh out loud
Yeah.
funny. But this collects a bunch of gag strips and everything from across Mad's publishing history. So this goes back to the 70s, this everything up to some very recent storylines. You can kind of tell they take place because of, there's some talks about the um, more recent Batman
Right.
and Superman
Yeah.
movies, and then it goes all the way back to kind of the Adam West era
Mm-hmm.
type. But this is so much fun. Like almost every page is a new group of gags and
Yeah.
stuff. It tells you at the bottom when it was originally published. And I think the last story in here might be new.
I think so.
It felt very recent with
Yeah.
kind of the topics and everything. But just a great one to add. And what I love about this, it's all the superhero. This is all the best of the superhero
Right,
stuff
right.
put in one. So where Matt has a bunch of different
Yeah.
stuff, it collects all of the DC superhero stuff in one that is just a ton of fun.
I mean, there's a story called "Bring Your Sidekick to Work Day," and you can imagine the fun stuff about that. All right, so next is Barda. This is also from DC Comics. This is a preview of the new Barda young adult graphic novel coming out in June. And in this one, Barda and the Furies, they get back from a mission where they're trying to obtain another variable for Darkseid's anti-life equation. And because Barda did such a good job on that mission, Granny Goodness gives her a new weapon and a new promotion for doing such a great job. And Granny then tells her of someone who escaped from their cell as if by some miracle, hint, hint, and she tasks Barda with breaking that person and getting them back into their cells. So, DC has put out a lot of these young adult graphic novels. They sell really well around here, and this is a preview of the next one featuring Barda.
Yeah, that one was really fun
Yeah.
because of who else is also
Yeah.
going to appear in that. Next up, I've got Disney's Maleficent. This is just a reprint of Maleficent #1. If you've already read it, nothing new here. But if you've never read it, it's cool. It's kind of I don't know if you can say a prequel story, but just kind of a story set in the Maleficent, the original Sleeping Beauty animated universe with Maleficent kind of seeing why some of the reasons why she's so evil. So really cool in there. If you're a big Disney fan, you'll want to check this one out.
Part of the Beautyverse, I guess. I don't know. We want to tell you about this, The Worlds of James Tynion IV. So this one is a reprint of a few pages from each Something is Killing the Children #1, Mimetic, and The Woods. So no new material in here, but if you're a James Tynion fan and maybe haven't read one of those, you want to check it out, then this reprints a few pages from each of those 3 stories.
Next up, I've got Snoopy Beagle Scout Adventures. This one's great. My notes for this one says it's amazing and heartwarming and still hilarious. Like
Snoopy's always great. Yeah.
This is like.
Is it all Snoopy, or there's some Peanuts characters?
There's some Peanuts characters, but it's very much like that. And it's all centered around the Beagle Scouts, where you've got Snoopy learning about the Beagle Scouts and then trying to recruit all of Woodstock and his friends into it. Just so much fun. Just a great lighthearted one to add to your collection coming up.
Well, next we've got Street Fighter versus Final Fight. I think we had a Street Fighter book last year too. It's almost like a staple on Free Comic Book Day. This one is a prelude to a 4-issue Final Fight series coming out in July. I will say there's not a whole lot of Street Fighter in this. It mostly focuses on Cody from Final Fight. I know there's been some crossover in the games too, but it's mostly centered around Cody. And his path from a street vigilante to a convicted criminal to mayor of Metro City, which I know has happened in some of the games too. But this puts a little bit more story around it with some really cool fights and art. So yeah, if that's kind of your thing, then grab that one.
Next up, we've got the Valiants. This is a new one from Valiant Comics and Alien Books, who now own them. And it's kind of a setup for it seems like a new team book. I know it used to be called Unity. Sometimes it's called Valiants. But in this one, we've got this organization called Gate, and they need to put together a Unity squad, but the team has scattered, and they're gonna, I guess, have to round them back up. It's it kind of reminded me of the DC Absolute Power. It kind of focuses on the organization behind the team, trying to put it together. And of course, Ninjak is going to be one of their go-to people. Plus, there's a very action-packed Ninjak story
Ooh, I like
in the
Ninja.
back of the
Yeah.
back of the book. So very cool in there if you're a fan of the Valiant
Nice.
universe.
Next is One Piece Ace's story. This is a preview of the One Piece Ace's story manga that's centered around Straw Hat Luffy's brother Ace and the devil fruit that he eats, which gives him fire powers. This actually shows all that happening, right at the very beginning. And it also contains a preview of another manga called Status Royale. And in that story, it's all centered around the world of esports, specifically a game called Status Royale. And there's a whole team that gets together and they're trying to learn how to be good teammates while competing in esports.
Next one, I've got Pokemon Adventures Ruby and Sapphire. This one sells itself. It's Pokemon. You've got some great battles in here. It's part of the manga collections that you can get, but fun for all ages. Great art. It's Pokemon.
It's Pokemon.
You know what it is. Also, there is a backup story in the Splatoon universe,
nice.
which a lot of people don't know has its own story and manga and everything. So, great one here. It's Pokemon.
Yeah. Well, next is Barkham Asylum. So this is really fun. This is a preview of the upcoming Barkham Asylum graphic novel. In this one, Joker, he's stealing some chemicals from Ace Chemicals. Well, he brings his dogs with him, and one of his dogs named Jester. And while there, Jester meets a cat named Penny. Penny actually follows Jester back to the Joker's hideout after that's all done. But it's not long before Batman comes busting through the skylight to stop the Joker's plans. So Joker gets sent to Arkham as he normally does, but because the city pound no longer accepts supervillain pets, Jester and Penny, since they were both there as well, they are going to get sent to Barkham Asylum. And then I don't know what happens to that. Like this ends before they actually make it there, but the rest will continue in the Barkham Asylum graphic novel.
Next up, I've got Farcry, Cull the Herd. This is cool. It reads backwards. This is a manga coming up set in the Far Cry universe, which doesn't always seem connected, but maybe it is. So this is about two sisters who live with their father, who owns a bunch of tobacco fields. But it looks like their father, somebody came in, has chained up their father, and is now making the two sisters work in the tobacco fields. But they want to break their father out. But something weird happens. Something almost magic happens. And where they end up at this is pretty surprising and calls back to another Far Cry game that was set in a different time, we'll say. So very cool in there if you're a Far Cry fan.
Well, next is Gannibal, and this is a preview of the manga that is out at the end of May. There's also a 7-episode live-action show on Hulu that I didn't know until I read this. That actually came out at the end of 2022. This one is all about a man named Daigo. He moves to a small, quiet village with his wife and child to be the town's sheriff, essentially, to be the law enforcer there. But there's a family there named the Gatos, who are into some shady things, and there are rumors that they are cannibals. And I mean, that's, this just barely scratches the surface of that. Like I said, I went and watched the trailer for the show, and it looked really cool. So, yeah, it's very mysterious. This is one of the red label books, the mature titles, but really interesting.
Next up, I've got Unico Awakening. This one was very popular with my girlfriend who helped me read some of these. This one starts in a fantasy world where there's a baby unicorn is born, but strays into kind of the real world where she befriends a cat. It's a lot of fun. It's for fans of like My Little Pony, fantasy, kind of a manga style. Great.
I love the artwork in that.
The art
it's really
this is
good.
great. It's very sharp, very colorful. This is by Graphics, kind of their comic imprint of Scholastic that's very popular. So you know exactly who the audience is for this, and they will love it.
Yeah. Investi Gators. I just love the title. This is a preview of the 8th Investi Gators graphic novel coming out in September. Features the super spies Mango and Brash. They're your two gators here. They're on assignment when Mango he falls into a super stinky plant, and they can't get back into their headquarters until he gets washed off. But that's easier said than done. When they finally get in, they're given an assignment to go undercover at a school to protect the school's mascot. This is really funny. It's another Green Label book, so it's all ages. It's funny though. Everything in their base is an acronym for something. They're like, here's your new vest, VEST, and it stands for very exciting something something, and like it's really fun. So another fun all ages book.
Next up, I've got Asterix, and this is such an interesting one. I feel like I could talk about this for a long time, but this is the classic Asterix comic series that is popular around the world. It just never quite penetrated the United States for stories and comics and everything, but it's big everywhere else with movies and live action and animated everything. So it follows the adventures of our kind of Viking characters, Asterix and Obelix. And this one is themed around it's got there's stories from different kind of graphic novels, but they're all kind of themed around sports and fitness and everything, but in a very funny way. It gives you bios on the different characters. So if you've never read Asterix, this is a great jumping in point because it kind of holds your hand through it and teaches you about this phenomenal series that's been around forever. Just you may have never heard of it.
Right. Well, next is Ultra Duck. This is a preview of the graphic novel coming out in June. A lot of graphic novel previews in these books. This is about Carlos, who is a regular duck who has girl problems and job problems. Very, very Peter Parker-esque, if you will. But he finds these gloves, these special gloves that give him superpowers. You can see here. But he's not great at being a superhero yet. It kind of gives me vibes of the Greatest American Hero from back in the 80s, which is always really fun. And there's this evil corporation that wants these powers and will stop at nothing to get them. So just another, and I like the artwork. It looks great, very crisp. A lot of good action. So another good all ages book.
Next up, we got the Night Librarian. This was really fun. This is, once again, a kind of a piece of a young adult graphic novel that's coming out from Christopher Lincoln. And the theme or the kind of basis of it is when characters in books get tired of living the same story over and over. You kind of see them, they're, running from a dragon or whatever, and eventually they just know what's going to happen. They get bored. And when all these books are like together in a library, it kind of starts chaos.
Okay.
As the characters kind of want to break out of their books.
Sounds very Night at the Museum.
Yeah, and that's when you call in the Night Librarians, whose task is to kind of deal with this, get the characters back in their books, all of that. So great all ages story here, and it sounds like a very interesting upcoming graphic novel.
Well, we have a copy of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Just going to go along with the animated show on Disney Junior, which I've never watched before. Apparently, Miles is called Spin in that.
Yeah, they have different names.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's really cool. So in this one, Peter, Miles, and Gwen, they want to throw Hulk a party, but they can't find him. And so Black Panther and Miss Marvel, they help him look for the Hulk, but along the way they run into Rhino and Green Goblin and Doc Ock, so that's really fun. There's a story where Gwen searches for her missing headphones. There's another funny one where there's baseballs randomly flying all over the city, breaking things. They don't know why. And Spidey finds that Hulk and Rhino are competing to see who is the best baseball player in the city. And baseballs are going everywhere. So yeah, a lot of fun. Really cool. I like the back too. Like that's a really cool image of like slightly altered costume design. So yeah, if you're a kid that likes this, or if you're an adult who has a kid that likes that, that's a really good one for them.
Next one, I've got Witches of Brooklyn, which is a new graphic novel series starting soon. And in this one, it's about two girls who are witches in Brooklyn with their aunts who are helping them do spells and teach them everything. But when the aunts leave, the girls think that they can, they've learned enough and they can do it all by themselves. But of course, it leads to catastrophe as they make a mess of everything. So another fun all ages story.
Well, this is the Overstreet Guide to Collecting Comics, and this actually is really good for brand new readers. We get questions all the time about, how do I store my books, where do I store them, that kind of thing. This is it's very simple but very good guide about collecting comics, from how to store them in bags and boards and boxes, but also what to look for in a really good comic shop as well. A good shopping experience, that kind of thing. What I really like about this is it makes mention about how it can be fun to try to figure out what comics are going to be valuable in the hot books and that kind of thing. But it talks more about collecting what you love, not just what other people tell you should love, which I really, really like. So there's all kinds of comics out there. There's something for everyone. And this emphasizes that point that just find what you like and get that regardless of anything else that anybody says. So a really good, if you're brand new to comics, this is a great resource and a cool story too.
Yeah. Next up, I've got American Mythology's Cursedverse. So we've got a couple of stories in here, just a few pages talking about them. We've got Bombshell and Tom Tom, who are kind of your main ones you see on there, which is a girl and her big red robot sidekick. We've also got Witch Hammer about a witch slash demon hunter, and a few others, but they're all set with kind of a golden age of comics feel. Kind of feels like, even though he wasn't really around in the golden age, but like, kind of like the Rocketeer,
Oh, right, yeah.
that kind of thing. These are already like ongoing series from American Mythology, but it gives you a little taste if you're wondering what they're all about.
And next is Unicorn Crush, and this is actually just a collection of the comic strips known as Phoebe and the Unicorn, featuring a 10-year-old girl named Phoebe and her best friend, who is a unicorn named Marigold. Not one big through line story in this, just a whole bunch of different strips from different stories, but really cute. A lot of it's really funny. Phoebe and her unicorn just always getting into massive hijinks.
Next up, I've got Katie the Catsitter and Max Meow. It's a double feature book. So the first story is about Katie. She's making skateboarding videos, all of that, and one of them is a hit on social media. It goes viral, and that's kind of what it leaves you with. How's she gonna deal with this and stuff? And the other one is Max Meow, who is kind of in that same vein of like Dog Boy and all of those. So these already have established fans, but really fun ones there.
Well, this one is Romeo versus Juliet. This is a Kill Shakespeare novel. This is a preview of the upcoming graphic novel that's coming in September. I feel I didn't know you're familiar with the Kill Shakespeare books, right? But I wasn't familiar with this. This is kind of like the Avengers of the Shakespeare characters. You've got Juliet and Romeo and Hamlet, and the Macbeths are mentioned. But in this one, Juliet doesn't die at the end of Romeo and Juliet, but instead she leads a rebellion, and she's pregnant, and she gets hurt, and she gets taken in by this nunnery who ask her to help defend this magical garden of theirs. And like I said, there's mention of a lot of other Shakespeare characters all coming together to create kind of this like sword and sorcery fantasy story almost. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then I've got The Loud House. This one, you see, it's a little bit smaller of a book.
Oh yeah.
But this is based off the Nickelodeon show, if you're familiar with it, the animated show. And this is fun because every few pages is a different story. They're very like condensed little one and done things. And if you're not as familiar, it does have a great bio page about all of the members of the Loud family and a little bit about them. So perfect for your fans of kind of modern Nickelodeon.
Well, next is Archie Horror presents the Cursed Library Prelude. Archie Horror has some of the best horror comics out, and there was a Cursed Library book last year on Free Comic Book Day too, I believe. This one is a prelude to the upcoming Cursed Library series. It's a series that is going to essentially connect all of the Archie Horror anthology books. A lot of them come out as one shots. But this is actually going to collect all of those into one sort of big universe centered around Jinx Holiday right there, and also Madam Satan. Jinx is the owner of this cursed library, which holds the tales of all the other Archie horror books that we've seen so far. There's a couple pages in the back who explain all the different characters are, and there's a collected edition coming in August, which is really cool, that collects all of those anthologies into one book. So you could get that collection to see all of those, one-shot Archie horror books, and then read this series when it comes out to kind of bring them all together, which is really neat.
That'd be a horrifying shared universe.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple more. We tried to make our list even. I went up with a couple more, but these are quick. This is the Boombox 10th Anniversary Extravaganza, and this just has samplings of various Boombox books, which is Boom's kind of a younger readers imprint. So this features a few pages from Lumberjanes, from Giant Days, from Zawa, and The Belly of the Beast, which isn't very old. Like it's still going on, I think, and also Midas. So just a preview. No new original content in this, but just glimpses at some of those stories. I've also got this Initial D, which is really just a reprints a few pages from the original Initial D manga, the series that made Japanese street racing a global phenomenon, or at least that's what they say. And it also features a few pages from the upcoming Kaina of the Great Snow Sea manga, which already has, I believe, an anime on Crunchyroll as well. So yeah, just some more good manga stuff there. And then we wanted to save this one for last because this is called Dying Inside. Now, I do want to say, okay, it's co-written by Pete Wentz of Fallout Boy. I do want to say that this is a red label book, so this is for mature readers, and there is a warning on the side that says includes discussions of suicide and depiction of self-harm. So, wanted to let you know about that warning, and again, it is for mature readers. This is a prelude to the upcoming graphic novel. Featuring a 16-year-old girl named Ash. She idolizes this rock star named Elliott Smith, who took his own life on October 21st of some year. I'm not really sure which year it was. But this issue takes place on October 21st as well. And let's just say she wants to follow in his footsteps and do what he did. But she isn't quite able to do it, but not sure if she's resisting herself or if there's something maybe a little bit extra going on. Not quite sure. We'll get those answers in the graphic novel. But yeah, definitely just want to make you aware. Mature readers, there is a warning on the side. So just putting that out there.
Yep. And that is it for our free comic book day special. There were so many great books this year. You're going to have a hard time choosing. Hopefully your store lets you pick as many as you want or gives you a way to get more because there's a lot of great ones to grab. Let us know in the comments which ones you're most excited about. And I look forward to hearing people's thoughts about these when they come out because there's a lot of big surprises this year that I, pleasantly surprised with.
There were so many good ones this year. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you do fine getting all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll enjoy them all. But thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, we do videos multiple times a week talking about new comics that are up for pre-order, all that kind of stuff. Always trying to keep it positive. And because we're just big comic fans and we love comics. So that's what we're here talking about. So give us a subscribe, a like, all that kind of good stuff as we creep ever closer to 3,000 followers. So very cool there. And once again, support local comic book store on May 4th. If you have one, if you don't have one, find another way to help, order from one online. You can get my book from infinityflux.net. One of those things, because your local comic book store, like it says, it's local. There's very few comic book store chains, and this helps them all, continue bringing you the great stuff that you love.
Yeah, and just to put it out there too, these books are free to customers, but stores do still have to pay for them. So when you go into a store to get some of these free books, maybe look around and try to find something else that you might like to buy from them, just as a way to support them while they do this free, cool thing for everybody
I think
else.
a lot of people think, oh, it's free all the way around. No, stores still have to buy these. They are at a discounted price. But they are still putting out a lot of money to make sure they have enough. So yeah, support them, pick up something here or there, and show your love. So we've got our regular videos coming back on Monday. We'll be going over the big books that come out on Monday. So thank you so much for watching.
If you made it to the end, leave us a robot emoji, just because I'm so excited about Energon Universe stuff and all the Transformers goodness. So leave us that robot emoji just to let us know that
you're coming out and you're saying, I am actually a robot? I've been a robot this whole time?
No.
Beep boop.
You will never learn that.
Oh no, you're powering down. Okay, until next time.
See ya.